supporters. If you're interested in supporting us, head over to patreon.com/NintendoDads. Welcome to Nintendo Dad's Retro Rewind of Zelda 2. On this episode, we're going to discuss our experiences playing through Zelda 2 for the month of October, picked by you, our Patreon supporters. Zach, cue the music.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Retro Rewind, brought to you by Nintendo Dads over at patreon.com/NintendoDads. Tonight is November the 2nd, 2016, and joining me for some trips, joining me to continue to look for the candle. I feel like I'm going to get to that in a minute here, but
oh no.
I'm gonna be straight up honest right now. This month was hard for me.
Can I wait? Hold on. Who came on this show with Marty and said play Mega Man 2? Don't even think about playing Zelda 2.
I know, Dave. This is your chance to be vindicated.
I warned you.
So joining me as well, Justin Masson. What's going on, Justin?
Cubs win. Cubs win.
Stop it.
Breaking news.
Stop it. And it's not breaking news. And
breaking news.
It's not okay. But
when you listen to this on November 6th, breaking news, folks. The Cubs just won. Yeah, speaking of someone who knows less about sports ball than I do, Jesse Waldak.
I do?
I assume you know more than sports ball than me.
I don't know. It depends on the sport. If it's rugby, I know nothing.
There we go. I could win that fight. Good. And of course, that voice you heard earlier, the man who sends us a message and says, "Hey, I'm not doing anything. Let's hijack your podcast." Dave Moore from Character Crunch. Sir, how are you today?
I'm pretty good.
Good. Excellent.
Are you the first? Have we had guests on Retro Rewind before? I feel like
I think we had.
I don't think we have.
I was gonna say I feel like this is an elite.
This is like a Patreon exclusive, but because Dave is so much like part of this family, we let him on.
And he has such severe insomnia in the Eastern time zone that we're like, hey man, you can come hang out with us.
If you ever want to do an early morning podcast, call Dave.
Yeah.
And he gets dropped.
We just left our Skype call. What are you doing?
He actually hung up the call. What just happened? Dave, where did you go?
Dave, where did you go?
Oh, there he is. Is he back?
So here's what happened. Your live stream from earlier just started playing up in the background, and I was hearing double, and I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
I thought you were really upset about the Cubs winning.
I am actually quite upset about the Cubs winning, but that's because I'm in Cleveland, and I have to be upset.
There you go.
That was the most rigged BS game I've ever seen in my life. This isn't a sports show. That was awful. That was the worst end of the World Series. If we were going to win, though, I was like, we're going to win in Game 6. We weren't going to win in Game 7. And then, they just dragged it out. They let two guys... I don't even want to... Okay.
And then let's go to extra innings for the fun of it.
I was trying to watch you guys watch the live show just to keep me, level and, all right, look, this is not going to happen. We're just going to lose. It's okay. Cleveland Indians, we won the championship for the Cavs, okay? We don't have to win the World Series with the Indians. It's okay. We can move on. But oh god, okay. I'm about as upset about the Cubs winning the World Series as I'm about Zelda 2, but
hey.
Good transition. That's a professional segue is what that is.
So Zelda 2 for those of you who don't know, last month we did Mega Man 2. It was a tie after Marty Estes campaigned for his for Mega Man 2 on this show, and so this was the tiebreaker. We got Zelda 2 as well, and due to a number of factors, I did not get nearly as much time as I tried to do this with this game, and I really wanted to go into this game with all right, I want to be able to I don't want to have to sit down and walk through this thing. I want to be able to do it without the walkthrough, and so I sat down. I kid you not, I sat down to play this game like at least 5 times, and I never found the candle. I don't know. I must be an idiot. I must actually.
No, you're not. I've only found the candle once. Only because I had my friend who I used to live in an apartment building. Actually, the first time I was on the show, I was in that apartment. The guy across the hall absolutely loved and adored this game to an extreme passion, the same way that he liked Toe Jam and Earl for the Sega Genesis. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which neither one of these games.
We're starting to get a true picture of this individual now.
Yeah, right. It's important. It's very important to understanding him as a person. His name is Kevin. And I bought Zelda 2 on the Virtual Console for my Wii U. And mostly out of curiosity, and he's just walking through the hallway and he hears the music just as he's coming in. And he's like, "You playing Zelda 2?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Let me come help you." I'm like, "Good, because I don't know what I'm doing." And this guy, he's like, "Oh, no, I've like beat this and streamed it like 6 times." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like, good for you, buddy."
Oh, it's one of those.
I've never gotten anywhere in this game. So me crashing this episode is maybe I'm about as useful as you are in this case, Zach.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a second here. I have this open right now. Jesse, you know this game better than you got farther. Where is the candle?
It's in the first so the first 6 dungeons each has an item and then the end boss, where after the boss you place one of the 6 crystals you start with, and placing all 6 crystals opens the seal to the 7th dungeon where you finish the game.
Okay.
So the candle is in the first dungeon. I can't walk through it without seeing a map, but it's in there somewhere.
So where is the first dungeon then? Because I'm like, I literally am like in that main first overworld area.
So it's where you spawn in the middle of the West Continent.
Right, with like the little temple surrounded by water.
Yeah, so you go northeast, you see a cave, and the cave will be initially dark because you don't have the candle yet.
Right.
You go to the other side of the cave to come out the east end of that continent. And then you kind of go up the path, and go
through the forest. Oh, hang on, I'm in the forest now. Like this is literally I'm doing a let's play.
Yeah, let me look at I'll have to look at the map to help explain the map up.
Because most of these caves initially have projectiles, right? And so how do I? Oh gosh, I'm dying right now. I'm dying.
Yeah, so pretty much just jump over it and keep going because you're not going to be able to see it in the dark.
Oh, it was just one little... what the... Okay, I'm literally farther than I was in the entire game. Okay. Okay.
This is why I said don't play this.
I think you got like 1 or 2 bugs, and then I think you have a Goria throwing
okay, in like a Greek temple place.
Yeah, that's the temple.
Elevator. Okay. You know what? Okay, let's we'll come back next week and we'll talk about this game. No, I also like for a lot of other school reasons, I just didn't have nearly as much time as I thought. But seriously, like it seems like I think part of the reason why it was so confusing was because that is a terrible introduction to a game. Can we just talk about that as far as like first impressions of a video game? I go into cave A. Fireballs everywhere. I'm dying. Okay, clearly I'm not supposed to go this way. Go into another cave. Same thing happening. Go into the third cave. No fireballs, but I'm still getting hit and dying. So clearly I don't need to go this direction. Oh no. I actually just jump over the invisible bad guy and keep going? And that's how you introduce your game?
If there are a few pixels you can see where their feet touch the ground. And so if you know where they are, you can go stab and kill them. But if you don't know what you're looking for, it's easier just to try to keep jumping over them until you get to the other side.
Your first real enemy should not be invisible, though. Like that's.
But Jesse, that's you hit on the exact thing. Is if you know where these little pixels are, that you just have to magically just know where they are.
Right.
There is no.
I'm like your friend who's played the game through 6 times.
Oh no, I'm sure. But how do you?
I haven't. I may not have played it through 6 times, but I have definitely more than 3 or 4. Yeah.
So how do you figure these things out without like Nintendo Power or
literally
an online walkthrough?
Back in the day, Nintendo Power was it, because one of the very early issues was this mega game guide. It was like half to 3/4 of an inch thick, that contained a crap ton of maps for a bunch of games. Like that's how I beat Kid Icarus. Like the third level of Kid Icarus was a weird maze thing that if you didn't have a map, it was confusing. And it had Zelda 2 maps every dungeon, and
okay,
that's how I got through it initially.
I want to show you something now, and I think this is a really good illustration of what games used to look like. Have any of you guys played Phantasy Star 2? Anybody here played that game?
I don't think I have.
So video games back then used to be very much. I'm going to put this in the chat just so that you guys can see it. Just look up Phantasy Star 2 dungeon map. But I'm going to just link something in our chat right now to help you understand. This is like, games were not always designed to be used. Like this game in particular is like you had to have the game guide or it was impossible. This is a picture of one of the dungeons in this game. In order to get through this dungeon, you would have to navigate this dungeon. Like, so just look at that and tell me which way you have to go. And not only that, but you see at the top, you have to get to the marijuana plant in this particular dungeon.
Well, that's horrible.
And if you get to any of those other plants, you're in the wrong place. Good luck doing that without a guide, right? Like you just never you would.
Oh, do we lose Zach? Or do we lose everybody?
How it was like, I remember sitting down in front of my TV. Playing Phantasy Star 2 and thinking like, holy crap, okay, I got to navigate myself through this map. But yeah, so it's interesting. It's an interesting. I think the game design has come a long way. Let's talk about this one as far as. So Jesse, you played this quite a few times early on in your, in like you've played it several times. Anybody else here played it? Justin, did you play Zelda 2 ever or?
No.
Okay.
And
Justin, did you play it for Retro Rewind?
I did play it for Retro Rewind. I've actually pulled out the no good Zelda Retro Rewind is complete without the Zelda Historia Hyrule book that I have got here. Going through the timeline, figuring out where we are.
Good idea.
That book of maps that I mentioned actually was released before the game was out itself, because the game got delayed.
Oh, good. So you could
Zelda game getting delayed? No way.
Oh, so you could study.
Yeah.
You could study in advance for these impossible mazes that you would have to solve.
Okay, hold on, hang on. So I think I just leveled up. So now it's giving me an option here.
So
life up 50.
Yeah, so you got your first 50 experience points. So now you can increase the life, which means if you get hit, you would take less damage. Or you can hit select or up and go to cancel and bank those 50 points and use them for one of the others. So
I think I need health right now.
So the sword is the higher the number, the harder you hit for. The magic is the higher level magic, the lower the magic cost of casting spells, and then the higher the life is the less damage you take when you get hit.
Okay.
With a maximum of 888.
So answer me this: where does this game timeline wise fall between, as far as release, between the original Zelda and like Metroid? Because I'm definitely getting Metroid feels from this game.
So this game was originally released in January 14th, 1987 on the Famicom disk system, actually. In relation to Super Metroid, as I recall, Super Metroid was released in the early 90s.
No, I think he's talking about the Famicom
Yeah, what about the
Metroid.
NES?
Oh, I'm sorry, for the NES. I'd have to Google search that one. Anyone want to Google that one for me?
I can Google it. See, this is how prepared we are tonight, gents.
It's an organic conversation. It's an
That's
organic.
okay. So
conversation.
Metroid was
It's 1:48 a.m. It's okay.
August 6th, 1986. And when was this? When was Zelda 2?
This was released January 14th, 1987.
Yeah, so
Metroid came
yeah.
first.
So it definitely does feel like. Am I the only one who's kind of getting that feel where it's like it definitely is like that side-scrolling sort of?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but imagine if it was Melee, right? Like,
Yeah, like it definitely has that feeling to it. There's kind of no doubt about that.
There's no vertical scrolling sections other than through like an elevator lift or a pitfall. But other than that, yeah, I can see the comparison.
Caution: to avoid damaging game info saved, hold in reset button as you turn power off. Really?
Well, that was bad.
What?
That's because of the battery, because they didn't want if you didn't hold in reset and you just turn the power off, it could actually kill power to the memory before the battery power can kick in, so you could lose your save. So they said the same thing with the original Zelda, and pretty much every battery game is they want you to hold in reset as you shut the power off. That just ensures that there's power to the memory chips at all times.
You know, it's interesting actually. As I'm looking at this this production schedule, The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link are actually released less than a year apart.
That's I didn't notice that, but I thought I remember Zelda 2 being delayed so much that maybe I don't know.
So it was and I'm talking more specifically about the Famicom release of it. So The Legend of Zelda was released February 21st, 1986, with Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link being January 14th, 1987. Now it was not released in North America until late 1988. So maybe that's where you're thinking it.
Okay.
But actually, in relation to the two, and I'm thinking on the Famicom Disk System, that's a really short turnaround time, like less than a year to flip it, and very different direction. So I really wouldn't be shocked there, Zach, if when you talk about those like inspirations or feelings of Metroid, that there's definitely some level of inspiration being taken there.
Well, and I wonder too, even just the fact that side scrolling itself was still such a new, like a novel concept. Like, like imagine nowadays how we have I don't know, like the idea of like the Wii remote, right? And how we saw like Waggle was all of a sudden in everything. I can imagine a similar sort of scenario where, holy crap, it's side scrolling. Like there you can walk off the map and you can, you know what I mean? That sort of thing was still, it was still such a new thing. It was new and it was exciting, and they were trying to stretch beyond how can we make this as interesting as possible and change things up. It's a very interesting game, and actually having now, I think what was so frustrating to me was that I actually find the play of this game is interesting. It grabs me in a way that I was not expecting a little bit. It's hard. Like and that's I did go and look at some reviews of the game and stuff like that, and at times it is too hard. Like it's like kind of grueling, and it's not a really greatly designed game, but it's got something there that kind of sucks you in, and I can see why this is for some people a cult classic, because I think that it's pretty awesome. But this is one of those games that I'm glad it's on the NES Classic that comes out next week, because I can see myself sitting down and actually giving this a little bit more of a fair shot over a Christmas break or something like that. So,
yeah, I did notice.
Maybe I'll try it again then.
Yeah, I played it on the Wii Virtual Console version on my Wii U in Wii mode, and I noticed there was some, like when you die, you got a static red screen But I remember that screen blinking and toggling back and forth between two different shades of red. So I'm wondering if that's an emulation thing that'll be fixed with the NES Classic.
Yeah. And it really does like it really does open up an entirely new discussion about the NES Classic, right? About what it's going to be. What is it about some of these games that makes it so that we are willing to sit down with them this many years later? And I'm really excited to get that. I'm gonna be heading out the morning. I don't know of anywhere that it's actually still taking pre-orders, and I never got a pre-order for it. So I'm gonna be like,
it's not pre-ordering in North America at all.
Oh, really?
There were no pre-orders. At least the way I understand it, there were no pre-orders of any kind anywhere, and you just got to show up and hope they have them.
And in Canada, it's further complicated by the fact that November 11th is Remembrance Day, which is a holiday. So
good luck.
Trying to figure out, okay, well, like, what is Walmart's holiday hours, or EB Games?
November 11th is Veterans Day in the U.S., but I don't think that's a bank closing holiday, is it? I don't remember.
Yeah, so
all I know is I'm going to GameStop at first thing in the morning, and I'm just gonna sit and wait.
And it's reading week down here, or it's reading week here too. So I won't be in school. I will be like, I'm free to be at the store to buy this right away. So that's good too.
Go early.
Yeah, seriously.
So one thing I wanted to ask you guys is, because if you don't read any documentation, the game doesn't explain anything, is the spell system. And did you pick up on that or not? Which you obviously didn't, because you didn't get to the first dungeon.
I know. I stumbled upon it though. Like I feel like I got something. I remember I found something. Like I talked to an old man, and he was like, "Hey, what's going on?"
So you got the shield spell, but you probably didn't learn how to use it.
All I knew is that it was like, "Hey, cool! I got the Goron tunic now. Like that's awesome. Like that's how, like I'm red. Why am I red? I don't know. Okay, well that's fine. Yeah, it doesn't explain anything, right? And it's almost like the engine that they used, or their programming or whatever. It's like the text boxes were super small too, for some reason. Like they didn't make the text boxes big enough, which was weird. But that was something else I noticed.
Yeah. So
I just like Zach kind of stumbled upon it. I was like, why am I now red? And okay, that's like it just. I paused it, went through the manual. I was like, I am totally missing something. And then I figured out how to do it, which is great, but I also didn't figure out
what you were doing.
Yeah, no, I was so confused. So confused.
Yeah.
Because once you get, I think, before you get to the second temple, I think, it's after you learn the second spell, there is a physical block there that you have to use to be able to use the spell before you can go on. And that's the jump. That lets you jump like 1.5 times or 2 times as high as normal. So at least at that point is, if you don't know how to cast spells, you can't progress in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and they do have other similar locks like that later on. There's one where the gap you need to jump up is too tall for the jump spell, so you need to know the fairy spell. So if you don't have that spell, you can't continue. And ultimately, that's how I got stuck in Dungeon 6, is because I didn't have the key, so I was relying on the fairy spell being able to squeeze through the locks. So I got to a point where I didn't have enough magic to cast the fairy spell, so I got trapped, and I had no way out other than to reset the game, because I had no monsters who could even kill me, because I killed all the monsters in the area.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, it's okay. So Miyamoto like historically made comments about this game, saying that this was potentially the worst game he ever made. Am I remembering that right? Okay, here we go. I'm looking at in 2013, He says, "Do you feel like you've ever made a bad game?" This is who are we talking to here? Somebody talking to him. Anyway, do you feel you've ever made a bad game? Him, yeah. He'd move on to talk more about the Wii game. He couldn't let it go. Yada yada yada. Blah 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 blah. Okay, where is it? I wouldn't say that I've ever made a bad game per se, but a game I think we could have done more with was Zelda 2. When we're designing games, we have a plan for what we're going to design, but in our process, it evolves and grows from there, Miyamoto said. In Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, unfortunately, we all ended up creating what was what we had originally planned on paper. So that's a rule of thumb, that if you find yourself at that point, you know the idea wasn't successful. Or is that... Okay, what is this saying? I feel like I'm reading jumbles of words. Basically, what it sounds like is that they created this game almost like it was entirely on paper, and then eventually we're like, "Oh, this doesn't." Like at some point, they were like, "I just
doesn't actually translate to being fun."
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, this maybe doesn't."
It's a
Which
game
you can see that a lot, right? Whereas it's like basically like you've got all those maps. Like even in playing the dungeon that I just played and died and closed my DS, but like. The layout of the levels are like, okay, well, you know, it's something like a Metroid level or like a Mario level, but Link is so clunky in how he handles that it makes it hardly fun at all, right? Where it's like he just kind of like jumps up and on top of things like you would in like Metroid or Zelda or Metroid or Mario, but this is not where Link's strong suit is.
But there is something to be said about like the potential here for like a Zelda-based side scroller. Like there really is with like the depth of like especially just modern, you know, gaming. Like if he could duck and magic and like turning Zelda into an RPG and making side-scrolling dungeons, like there is an idea here, right? That I think if they were to revisit or maybe rethink, almost completely rethink, just take Zelda 2D side scroller and then roll with that.
Right.
Not that I need another 2D side scroller of anything. Let's make that clear. I don't really want anything else, but I think there could be something really interesting and good here.
Right. And I think that's where like, but at what point does it stop becoming Zelda and it becomes Castlevania or Metroid in the Zelda universe? You know what I mean?
Well, I think I said this before, but this was before there was a quote-unquote Zelda formula.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, like, you have to think of like what quintessentially, and this is the hard part at this point in the development cycle and where they were. Remember, this is only the second Zelda game they ever created, right? So they're trying a new formula. I mean, and we also think in this game there's also the leveling up system. We don't see that ever before or ever again. As I recall, Breath of the Wild will probably be the nearest example. But
welcome back.
Thank you. The thing that amazes me about this is that this is the second one. We're all having conversations about how difficult it was, how challenging it was, how frustrating it was, and yet 3 years later they come out with A Link to the Past. They go back to the formula they did the original Zelda in, and they have a huge hit with it. And they kind of like blow it up and rebuild, and it's one of the best Zelda games ever out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of
economy.
But yeah, but Justin, see what this is they never went back to this.
No, they didn't, because they knew it sucked.
I said this game sucked. I told you guys that I wouldn't play it. But I'm trying to defend it here. And the point is, I think with maybe a less of a steep learning curve and maybe, you know, rethinking just exactly how this is supposed to play out.
Maybe with a more modern tutorial.
Right,
I think this was the big thing here. Yeah.
Just explain what I need to do. Right?
Yeah,
I would just a tiny bit.
Like, I agree with that, Dave. Like, I don't think the game sucks. I had fun at times with it. I just think, and maybe this is like, you know, pulling
I didn't have fun.
The time machine back 30 years to games that nowadays do a really good job tutorializing us, telling us what to do. But again, this is a game that this is a game that relied you to talk to your friends and talk on the playground, right? How did you discover that? How did you this was the socialization of video games in the 80s.
And that's
this was also a game that where you got to think about it. They didn't have the quick production cycle for games like we're used to now, where we're literally churning out games every week. Like, the fact that you get angry and frustrated with it, great, because you're not getting another game for another 6 months, right? So really dig into that game.
You could butt your head against it for a long time and not be and be like, all right, well, this game is really hard and I'm really enjoying trying to figure it out, and you could bite your head up against it for like days and days and days, and then finally kind of like get a breakthrough. I remember with lots of games, right, where it was with like Aladdin on the Genesis, whereas like all right, I got to the third level, and every time I played it, I got to the third level, and then finally I mastered this one part, and then suddenly now I can get to the fourth level every time, and then now I can get to the fifth level every time, and over time you would get good, so to speak. But
yeah, you're like building up a muscle.
You go back to this social thing, and it's like the Pokemon thing, right? When we were kids, like growing up playing Pokemon Blue and Red, right? Like that communication that taught you where to catch things, and like, the bigger kids could figure out the game a little bit deeper. And maybe Pokemon is not nearly as hard as like Zelda 2, but and I don't want to derail us, but this is what I do. The reason that the Nintendo Switch is going to be a brilliant console, it's not just because it's portable, not just because it's a console at the same time, right? It's this social aspect of saying, hey guy, we're sitting on the bus, like, I don't know you, like, you don't know me, I don't know you, but I got Mario Kart and we can play Mario Kart right now. And I know we're both going to the campus. We got 45 minutes to kill. Like that is a brilliance that this is going to be. And that's why Zelda 2, maybe at its time, with the people who were surrounding it, like my neighbor across the hall, like, this dude knew everything, right? Mm-hmm. He had mastered this game. And if I had him, to help me through it the whole time, maybe I would have enjoyed it more.
Right. And
maybe I would have kept through it. And I think that is something that's very special about this game and games of that era too.
Yeah, this is definitely a game that, I can't think of a modernized version of this right now, right? Where there's so much upheaval of like, what are we doing wrong? This is so difficult, right? Because gaming nowadays, this would not have passed, right? No one would have let this one through QA, so to say, right? But you are right. Like, it is a piece of.
It would have been more, it would have been more polished, is what it would have been. This one just more than anything, it lacks polish.
Right, but I guess like this is a game that like you can continually come back to, and it's almost like a piece of art or a badge of pride or ownership, right? That you can be like to your friend across the way, Dave, the neighbor who's like, yeah, I've done it 7 times, 6 times, I know everything, right? Like that's a bit of a gamer's badge of pride, of honor, being like, I have completed this game, right? And this is a game that you can probably peck away at for years to come, slowly and surely, and maybe in 3 or 4 years from now, you've got it done. You're like, yeah, I feel like I've turned over every rock in this game, this virtual game, and I know it inside out and backwards. But I do.
It's the same reason that I can't master Mega Man.
Sure. Well, then you're just not a good gamer. But those are 2 completely different things.
But like, I feel like with Mega Man, I could peck away, and this is maybe going back to why Zelda 2's game design is so much worse, right? Is like Mega Man 2 I struggle with, but I feel like with time and with practice, I could advance. Versus Zelda 2, where like, I don't even know if I'm going the right way.
Yeah,
like that's the thing. Like,
yeah, at least say definitely the first time through, you should be playing with maps.
Well, like
a map in your lap.
It doesn't even follow like general left to right, sort of like.
It doesn't.
It's not even a side scroller. It's a side scroller with an overworld map where I can go in multiple directions and then try to figure out what I have to do and see if I'm in the right side scrolling. Like, it's like if Mario World like required like special items to get through certain levels, but you could just go anywhere on the world map. That's what this is, and that doesn't make sense.
But
Like-
so I admire the audacity of this game to challenge those and be like, okay, well, let's try this. Let's mix these things together. And
That's why I say they should revisit it.
I think that it would be very interesting for them to continue to if they were to revisit this, what would that look like? A new Link's, what do they call this? The Adventure of Link.
Yeah.
Adventure of Link or something. You know what I mean? Like, it would be interesing for them to revisit this. It would be cool.
Confirmed. Retro Studios is working on a remake of Zelda 2.
Well, I mean, like this is one of the first open world, right, exploration based games.
Yeah, you can definitely walk into an area where you're not supposed to be yet. And,
and die.
Yeah, because there's later on, on the path that leads to the final dungeon, you'll see there'll be invisible monsters that'll kick your butt because you don't have the item from the 6th dungeon that lets you see them.
Right.
So that was my problem. I kept on. I didn't have an item that I needed to finish the 6th dungeon properly, so I have to backtrack and get that item. But a few weeks ago on the regular show, I dropped a hint saying you should kill the bubbles when you see them. It'll take like 100 hits initially, but kill them and you'll get, that'll be the most of your XP. Did you?
Yeah, neighbor told me this too.
Yep.
Did you? Did you try to get that?
I did. Yeah.
Did that help? Or
Yep.
And then other little hints that I don't think are documented anywhere outside of weird guides is in the background of most of the dungeons. You'll see like a statue of an iron knuckle, and then the statue of like gargoyle heads, which are called Ra and Mao. If you hit certain ones, they'll either drop a red potion from a red magic potion, or will spawn a red iron knuckle for you to kill.
Interesting.
So like earlier on, it'll almost always drop magic, and even sometimes it doesn't. Like as you enter a dungeon, the first thing you always see before you go down the first elevator is a statue of an iron knuckle. So just take a swing at it, and if an iron knuckle spawns and you don't think you can kill it, then leave and come back, and maybe next time it'll be a magic, or maybe it'll be nothing.
Did Zach just drop?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Okay, I'm
There
back.
he is.
Yeah,
Okay.
back.
There we go. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
We don't either.
What? What's going on? I'm lost. Okay,
I mean,
we're back.
even that's an interesting use, right? The RPG element of it, the leveling up, right? Like that's very different. We don't see that again repeated. So, yeah.
Yeah. Although again, it just makes me interested with this with their, like with Breath of the Wild, like where are they drawing from here? Like I know that we're kind of saying that maybe they're drawing more from the original and less from anything else. But I don't know. It would be interesting for them to revisit this a little bit more. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. Hey, I've got actually a listener email that maybe we'll spit out. How's that sound?
Do it.
Okay, all right. So this one says, "Hi Nintendo Dads. I'm not nostalgic for The Adventures of Link, as I didn't play it until I was in my 20s. The first time, though, I didn't get far. I put the controller down and screamed, 'I'm out!' After finishing every other game in the series, I picked up the controller again a few months later, only to be totally drawn in. It's the furthest you can get from the Zelda we know and love today, and you can easily spot why it's a cult classic. This playthrough reminded me of the time I first finished the game, suffering as some of the most awkward placed enemies, or the guys who ruthlessly attack you, not giving you a chance to react. But once again, I fell for the RPG elements and furious battle exploring and grand land of Hyrule from dungeon to corner. The Adventures of Link is my joint first favorite NES title. Maybe I'm a sucker for punishment, or maybe it's just cropped up at a time when I'm desperate for something different. But I love Zelda 2, even if it does leave me bald, naked, screaming, and covered in blood every time I play it. Keep up the great.
Is this my neighbor writing this?
Keep up the great work, Gary Gray.
Oh my god.
Oh, Gary.
That is like the perfect metaphor for this game. I feel like after all the time that I tried to play this game, and like literally the beginning of this episode, go back and listen to me discovering, oh, now I can actually play this game. Like it was so frustrating, and I don't know. Maybe this is just me. Maybe I'm gonna lose like 1 million geek cred points right now with this game. I don't know, but it's interesting, and it does have something there, you know. But the consensus is that it's for people who are gluttons for punishment. So
I remember when earlier on, what I used to do. Well, when you got your first spell, you basically got it for free, right? You didn't have to do anything for it. She just lets you in, and you can talk to the old man. Every other spell is basically a mini quest. You've got to find something, find an item, or of some sort, then return it, and then she'll let you see the old man. So, to get the jump spell, you have to collect recover a trophy from the Gorias, which is in the cave to the north, and then return it to the city west of the start, from where the game starts. So I remember I used to not only get the first spell, shield, but I would go up into the cave without the candle to get the trophy, and then go to the second city to get the jump spell before going back and doing level 1, and by doing the extra running around and getting XP, I might have my attack up to 3 or 4 by the time I'm done with that first dungeon, and I would like kill the boss in like 4 or 5 hits instead of 8 to 10.
So it had that level of being able to kind of cheat the system, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, if you know where everything is, yes, you can. But definitely not something you can do on your first playthrough.
Right. That's cool though, because like that's the kind of thing that I wonder how much.
Just like in the original Zelda, you can get 6 hearts and the white sword and the blue ring before entering any dungeon.
Right.
And then you can just stomp over everything in that first.
It makes me wonder about Breath of the Wild, too. Is like, what is going to be the direct path? Like, obviously, you can it seems like they're going to guide you if you so choose, right? But it doesn't seem like you have to. And I feel like speedrunners and those kind of gamers like will find like the way to like kind of game the system so you can get the most hearts before you have to do any of the major quests or missions or whatever we want to call them, the first dungeons. It's gonna be exciting.
In fact,
for a change.
Speedrunners of Zelda 1 will actually do the second dungeon first, just based on where it's located and based on how you can glitch through the screen going left but not right.
Right.
It's amusing to watch.
Now this game also introduces to the Shadow of Link, correct?
Yes, that is the Dark Link is the final boss.
Right. Which is very interesting because we've seen, there's a Dark Link in Smash Brothers, right? He's one of the skins, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a very iconic moment for Link in kind of the pop culture-y part of his history of the game as well.
I don't remember if he was in Link to the Past, but that is a big moment in Ocarina of Time when you end up fighting Dark Link. I think in the middle of the water temple.
Right.
Yeah.
Which everyone's favorite temple.
Isn't it always? Also, just for those of you who are playing the timeline game, Let me just tell you where this one actually stands out. So this is actually part of the, and this is as of today's timeline, this is part of the Hero is Defeated timeline, where it's the decline of Hyrule and the last hero. And this is in the era of decline, where it's the tragedy of Princess Zelda 1, and obviously the resurrection of Ganon, and then obviously in the adventure of Link, this game, the resurrection of Ganon is prevented. So, interestingly enough, as we kind of look at it from a sequencing perspective, this is the second game we get in the entire series, but as we look at it from a timeline perspective, this is actually very near the end of the timeline.
Right. But which is a direct sequel to the first game.
Correct, yeah. Very rarely, other than Oracle of Ages and Seasons, which is kind of actually just an extension, do we get a lot of sequels within the timeline, right? Yeah, very rarely do we actually get direct sequels.
Then kind of touching on Breath of the Wild, what I'm thinking that they're going to do with that in terms of RPG elements, probably not XP points to gain levels, to gain hit points as much as just keeping with traditional heart containers, because we've kind of seen that in the demo. But
so I guess,
but the armor, the clothing, and the weapons used will determine your defensive and offensive stats.
Right. Yeah.
So that will improve in time as you play.
So I guess my question to us is, as we've talked about how challenging this game was for us and how kind of gut-wrenching and difficult it was, knowing the approach that Breath of the Wild is taking, this kind of being this open, massive open world, little direction methodology, very similar to what we're seeing here. Now that you've played Zelda 2, do you have sort of fears about that direction and your ability to play it or to get attached to the world?
I don't think so. Just because it's like, it's something that's going to be, like, I trust their judgment. I think that there are ways to do this well. There, like we've kind of said here, there are plenty of ways that they could have made this work. They were on something, and it just, for whatever reason, it sounds like part of it was hardware. Issues with the hardware capabilities at the time. It was almost like this game was a little too ambitious for their own good. And
that's interesting because Nintendo is renowned for kind of never scrapping an idea, but having an idea that might not have gone as well as they wanted it to, and just look at how they can repurpose it in the future. And I wonder, to your point, as you mentioned that, Zach, if their level of ambition for Zelda 2, the hardware not being in software and just design not being where it was again, Breath of the Wild has allowed them the opportunity to kind of resurrect their approach to the Zelda formula that makes it different.
Mm-hmm.
Then you asked if after playing Zelda 2, if it changes how worried you are or aren't about Breath of the Wild. If you recall, I've been worried about that game since we knew about it. It's because I've played open world games before, and I'm generally not a fan. Like the Batman Arkham games, I think, are the only exception to that I've been able to play through without killing myself.
And those are guided fairly well though too. Like those are, although open world, they guide you pretty well. They breadcrumb you along really well.
Like I tried playing a Grand Theft Auto. I tried playing Red Dead, and
oh, see, Jesse, I just started Red Dead. I'm liking it, but I never liked Grand Theft Auto. But I like Red Dead so far.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of either.
So I guess as we look at it, we talk about the future directions of the series. I would just say, we know the future of the direction of the series is Breath of the Wild, and I guess this will kind of be a second kick at it. So I guess I don't know, guys. I don't really have a lot more to say on it, to be completely honest.
Yeah, no, I think that's it covers it a lot. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting game. It's been fun to visit it and to really get a good look at it. But yeah, it's I appreciate the. Do we have any more emails or anything, or that's?
No, that was it. But it is funny because as we were doing the vote for this, so many people were saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, I really want to be a big jerk to you guys. I'm going to make you play Zelda 2, right?" So it's kind of earned that title of a tough game, of kind of like you want to punish someone for it, you're going to put this game forward for their retro rewinds and votes. So
I tried to not let this happen.
You know what though? But I mean, I had never played this game. I never. I mean, we've talked about it before. I'd never had much experience with Zelda before. So really going into this fresh, it was an interesting experience. Probably a game I would not have played. But as we kind of get closer to the Breath of the Wild and playing more and more Zelda games, I'm like, okay, I haven't finished it, but I kind of understand the world that you're weaving more so. So I appreciate it for what it is and what they were trying to do. I do think, like Zach says, felt a bit ambitious. Felt perhaps probably not where it was, but I'm so impressed that this is what they put out in 1987, and then a couple of years later, A Link to the Past, which I think is probably one of the best games for Super Nintendo and probably one of the best Zelda games that ever comes out, and kind of refirms up the series. And actually, this reminds me very much of kind of like how we almost look at Mario 2 and Zelda 2, right? They're different games. Sure. They take a very different approach to it. You kind of scratch your head thinking like, well, that's different. And then the third one they come out with kind of really firms up the series, right? Mario 3 goes back to the roots and firms up so much more of the series going forward. A Link to the Past goes back to the original roots, re-reses it, firms up so much of it that we now see going forward as a staple for a lot of it, obviously minus now Breath of the Wild coming up, right? But just creates like pillars and staples within that game design and that story that we now kind of lean into as like that's kind of the true and truth of that franchise. So very interesting the Mario and Zelda parallels, which should not be shocking obviously because of Shigeru Miyamoto, but it's almost as if for both teams it was kind of like let's just try something different, right? Before we start to kind of find our way.
Well, and it reminds me too of like of even the difference between like the NES version of Super Mario Brothers and then going to Super Mario Land, where it was like totally different, like almost like a different tone, different physics. But again, in both of those situations, regardless of it, you're talking about, Doki Doki Panic or Super Mario Land, it's still a 2D platformer, right? And so it's like this was a much more drastic change than either of those two, right? Not to say that it's not a good analogy, because I think it is. That early on there was a lot of really interesting experimentation that was going on that unfortunately I don't think that we I don't know if it's that we don't appreciate the innovation that is happening, or that there's less of it going on and it's more iteration and less innovation in a lot of game design nowadays. But anyways.
And I mentioned this to Justin before the show we started recording, but when I was playing through this, I was trying to go without using hints or a walkthrough, either going off of muscle memory or just blind. And I ended up getting stuck in Dungeon 6, as I said. Literally the only recourse was to reset the game. But with like 5 minutes of research before we recorded them, like, oh, that's where I messed up. So it definitely is a walkthrough-y type of game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I knew to get a certain item or spell, you have to find a hidden town by chopping trees in a forest. For some reason, I thought you had to find an axe or a different item to do it, but no. The hammer that you got like midway through the game acts as an axe. I just never tried pushing A with it and seeing what in the forest. So that was where I messed up.
Nice. Yeah. Well. So yeah, I would say to all of our people who played along with us, thank you for your feedback. Of course, next month is another RPG, Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, available
on your Wii U Entertainment System currently.
Yes, that is not something that's on that hasn't been released for the 3DS yet, hey?
No, unless it's released as of like tomorrow, which very well could be.
Come on, guys.
And if it is, it'll be new 3DS only because it is Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo.
I'm okay with that. I'm fine.
I'm okay with that too.
If it is, watch for my tweet.
Yeah, because I didn't want to rebuy Zelda 2 a third time, so I ended up playing it on the Wii mode over the Wii U.
Sure.
This one, I did buy Mario RPG on the Wii Virtual Console, so I may just go forth and buy and pay the extra $1.50 to get it on the Wii U side, versus having to deal with Wii U mode again.
Can I throw out one retro rewind question before we go?
Yes.
Sure.
What is the first game when you get your NES Classic Edition that you're gonna play?
Oh.
It's retro rewind related. I can tell you mine while you think about it.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna play Final Fantasy because I've never played it.
That is
really
never touched it. I've played other Final Fantasy games, but I've never touched the first one ever.
I'm probably torn between either playing Zelda 2
again.
Not the whole thing. Maybe the first hour, just so I can see the difference in the emulation between the Wii version of the emulation and what is supposedly more precise NES emulation. And that or Final Fantasy was my next one, and I had played that before, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, I have two different answers to this for
Of course you do.
for this
one. He has to cheat.
No, because it's a different answer for the two questions. The question is which one I would say the one that I am going to sit down and play myself first, and then what am I going to sit down with my kids to show them?
Right.
And I think that for my kids, I want to show. I know my son loves Kirby, like he's played the crap out of Robobot, and so like Kirby's Adventure or Super Mario Brothers 2, like one of those two. And then for myself, geez, man, there's so many. I think, I want to say, very first, I'm gonna have to go with like Super Mario Brothers 3. Like,
I can't wait to play Super Mario 2 again.
Yeah,
I love that game. Okay, that's exciting.
Super Mario Brothers 2 is super weird, and
but that's why it's so good.
In a good way. Oh, in a good way. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I mean
that's why it's
bizarre and fun and different.
Another reason why I wanted to play Zelda 2 on the NES Mini is just because I think the spell casting is a lot easier on the NES controller because it involves the select and start buttons. And so having the select and start buttons in their proper positions versus how I'm remembering playing it back then will be a lot easier than using the classic controller Pro and the plus and minus buttons, which aren't quite exactly the same.
Totally agree.
Zach, I'm disappointed in you. I would have thought you would have said Ice Climbers.
No.
Why does everybody hate Ice Climbers? It's not something I
Nobody
understand.
hates Ice Climbers. Zach likes Ice Climbers.
I do like Ice Climbers. It's definitely up there. Like it's fun too, but I think there are a few games that are a little bit ahead of that. And I plan on playing a lot of these games over like Christmas break is going to be like a good time.
Just NES Classic Edition. That's all you're going to play, right? Nothing else.
And like some Pokemon, I'm going to still be playing Pokemon by then. I'm going to be playing lots of stuff, but yeah, I'll definitely be playing a lot of it. That's for sure.
Justin, you didn't answer yet.
Yeah, well, I'm actually, believe it or not, Dave, I'm not planning on getting it.
What?
Get out of here. Get out of town.
If I get it for Christmas, that's great, but I am not actively going out and getting it. As I go through the lineup of games, though, Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, okay. Fine.
What is it about it that you don't? Why do you hate fun, Justin?
Well, Justin, why do you hate Nintendo?
You know, the interesting part about it, Zach, is actually as I go through the list, I have a lot of these games through my virtual console.
They're not as good.
Or through my actual original NES that I still have that works.
Oh, then that's fine.
Do you have an NES Classic Edition though?
I don't have an NES Classic Edition. But the games on here that makes me like, oh, I maybe wish is like Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah.
Ghosts and Goblins, and actually,
but see,
Super
Justin,
C,
but Justin,
Bobble,
if you
Bobble, Bobble.
if you want this and more games, you got to buy this to tell Nintendo to make more of these.
Yeah, I know. You know what? And I've never actually played Kid Icarus, actually, so that's probably something I should do.
That's an interesting game. I have that on my virtual console.
And I do love me my Super Mario Brothers too. We all know that one.
Though, to be honest, the 3D Classics version of Kid Icarus is, I think, the better game versus trying to play the NES original, because the NES original, I mean, the Japanese version is on the disc system, and the 3D Classics is based on that, and you'll actually get the 3 save states, similar to Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, but the North American Kid Icarus is password based because it didn't do the battery backup like Zelda did, so it isn't as good. Still, ultimately it's still the same gameplay, but it just feels better in the 3D. At least I thought so when I played through it.
Yeah. I mean, so actually, the thing I would actually kind of do want to do is actually pick up the controller.
Well,
so that I can play my actual NES.
Just pick up the console, Justin.
No, I might.
Listen, Justin, if you're gonna buy both Pokemon Sun and Moon, then you need.
I know, right? Like, go back to GameStop. Tell them you changed your mind. You only want one of those, and then buy the NES Classic.
Yeah, I'm buying 5 copies of Pokemon, literally.
God, stop, Jesse, stop.
Because my daughter wants both, and one for me, one for my son, one for the other daughter. Is 5 copies. Though I am making.
Why are you letting them have both without just telling?
I'm making her pay for the second copy.
Okay, good.
I'm going to stop this Pokemon nonsense right now. I'm only getting one of them. I'm either getting Sun and Moon. I'm only getting one of them. I'm not doing this bundle thing, despite this guy talking me. It's not going to happen.
Good.
Good for yourself, Justin.
Change my mind is what I do.
Go back and take the extra $40 you're getting and spend the $20 more just to getting NES Classic Edition.
No, they're like, what is it up here, Justin? Is it 70 or 80?
$70. 85 Canadian.
Oh, it's only 60 American, so
yeah.
120.
You know what? It might actually be cheaper for us to bring it in from the States. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
It might.
Change.
All right. Well,
how big's that box you're sending me? Maybe I can send one back.
Yeah. Too bad you won't be here the following week. Then you probably could pick one up for
you. Well, you know what, Jesse? I fly. Well, yeah. For those of you that don't know, I'm actually going to be visiting Jesse next week. I am in Kansas City, so him and I are going to meet up for some dinner on Sunday night. But actually, Jesse, I don't fly home until the 11th, November 11th, when this thing actually comes out.
Oh, there you go.
Just buy it while you're here.
Yeah, I don't know. I even said to Jesse, I'm like, how many GameStops are near my office or near where you live? So
there's at least 3 within a 3-mile range.
Near my office too that I work out.
I don't know where you're going to be at, but from my house, there's like 3 within short drive.
Jesse might also be trying to buy me or smuggle me a Boo Amiibo. If I can't find one in Canada, he might
mine
help
will
me
be
out.
here on Friday.
Shut it.
I'm so excited. I pre-ordered it on this show. I was on this show when I pre-ordered.
Okay. Well,
all right. Let's wrap it up.
Oh,
gentlemen.
Okay.
Any questions or anything? Sorry, I have to edit like at least one episode tonight still, and it's late, and I have stuff.
Okay. Bye, Jack.
Everyone, I'm done. I'm sick of this nonsense. This going on forever. No, it's fun. It's fine. So thanks, Dave. It's been awesome having you on the show, dude.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
You can go listen to my new video game podcast, completely dedicated to playing old video games.
What?
Yes. Tell us more about that, Dave.
Shelved and Forgotten with Johnny Casino from Generational Gamers Podcast. Him and I started a show. The iTunes feed is not existent yet. It's there, but it hasn't showed up yet. It should be very, very soon. It's called Shelved and Forgotten. We're going to play old games that we've put on our shelves and then never touch them. Like we bought them and we didn't play them. And then we're also going to play the retro rewinds along with you guys as part of the fun.
Right on, man. Well, it's
right.
It's going to be an enjoyable experience. It's going to be fun. So Super Mario RPG next month, everybody.
So would this be our first unofficial spin-off podcast?
I mean, you can call it that, I guess.
Fan podcast is what I'm going to say. The official, officially unofficial Nintendo Dad's fan podcast.
Nice.
Is that like Radio Free Nintendo has a fan podcast basically that was called Nintendo. It was wow,
Nintendo.
Nintendo. What was it? Nintendo Free Radio? Was that what it was? Yeah,
I think so.
Let that go to sleep, guys.
I say that out loud, and now it doesn't sound right, but I don't know. But yeah,
I trust that is what's going on. So I don't know. We'll see. So if you want to follow us on all over the social medias, everybody, go over to Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Nintendo Dads. You can email us nintendodads@gmail.com. And if you want to change the world, go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. And if you want to subscribe to the show, you can go to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, or VGTribune.com. So for me, for Justin, for Jesse, and for Dave, we will see you all next month for another episode of Retro Rewind. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And out.